Hi everyone, my name is Sam Ashkenazi, and I will be doing my cultural interview on my mom's good friend Rosie Mandil. So I came into this cultural interview thinking I was going to compare and contrast the differences between a Mexican Jew and a Syrian Jew. But it turns it turns out that she's not a Mexican Jew; she's actually a Lebanese Jew. The reason why I thought she was a Mexican Jew is because whenever she was around my house or like with my mom, she would always be speaking Spanish on the phone or to her mom, or she was speaking a lot of Spanish. So I thought she was Mexican, but it happens to be she's Lebanese. So she said the reason why she speaks so much Spanish is because she has a lot of relatives in Mexico, and whenever she goes to visit Mexico, she's fully immersed in the language, and since a young age, she's been immersed in the language. Like her mom talks to her sometimes in Mexico in Spanish, and she said she just developed it by being immersed in the language. So when I first asked her initially, is I asked her what types of food does the Lebanese culture have? Like, what do you eat? Like, what's the traditional type of foods that your mom will make for dinner or like a special meal? So she said a lot of the food is rice based. In Lebanon, the rice was easily accessible. Everyone was making rice, and rice lasted a long time. So it made sense for them to make rice and eat it a lot because it fills you up. It's not so expensive, and they had the land to do it. So she said everything was rice based. She said something that she loves specifically is something called luvia. Luvia is, as she explained, is it's like it's string beans, tomato sauce, and rice all mixed in one. I don't really know how that works, but it sounds amazing, and I'd really like to try it someday. But she said that's her favorite type of Lebanon style food. So then I asked her how was the living style. Like, was it like more traditional and simple, or was it more like nice and like extravagant? So she told me in Lebanon that the furniture was very designed well, like extravagant. She said it looked like old like old like old age Indian Moroccan style type, which I think is really cool. I kind of like that type of style and that type of furniture, and I think that struck me to be cool. I never thought that Lebanon would be that a type of country where it has extravagant furniture and stuff like that. So I asked her how it was. I then asked her how it was like growing up in a Mexican style, and not a Mexican style, but I asked her how it was growing up in like a Lebanese Jewish home where she has like Mexican relatives, and her mom lived in Mexico for a little bit. So she told me it's not so much Mexico. Like her mom doesn't really emphasize the Mexican part of her. It's very much old school Lebanese. She told me that her parents were practically straight off the boat from Lebanon. Like they came right from Lebanon. Now they went to Mexico first, but like they were only in Mexico for a short period of time, but they were very Lebanese based. So it was hard for her mother to adapt to American culture because whatever she saw on TV or like whatever the stigmas were of teenagers, she believed. So she believed that if your kids are going out, they're doing drugs. If your kids are going out, they're being mischievous with their friends or stuff like that. So it was hard for her to adapt to the American culture because her mom couldn't adapt to it. Her mom was like very strict on her. She's like, you can't go to prom because there's sex, drugs, and alcohol, and you can't be there. But like that's not always the case. So she was held back a lot in her childhood because her mom didn't really allow her to do so many things because she was scared about the world around her when really she didn't really know so much about it. Um, then I asked her about the communication between her family. So in Lebanon, as in Syria, they speak Arabic. So for me, when I like my parent like my parents passed down only the like little words because my great grandfather was a fun one that came from Syria to America. So he passed it down to my grandpa. And my grandpa didn't pass it down really to my dad. He only passed down certain words, and those certain words were passed down to me and to my entire community actually. So like my entire community has English language with Syrian words mixed into it. So in my everyday vocabulary, I have a little bit of like Syrian words that I use, and people don't really understand me so much. Like when I go outside my realms. So when I asked her what was spoken in her home, she said that fluent, like being that her parents were straight from Lebanon, they spoke fluent Arabic around the house. So she would always understand like, so she fluently understands Arabic, but she could talk it here and there. She can't speak it fluently, but she said she could speak it. So I think that was pretty interesting. She also said that being that she has a lot of family in Mexico, and being that she lived in Israel for a little bit of her life while she was married, um, she learned how to speak fluent Hebrew, understand fluent Hebrew. She knows how to understand fluent Arabic, not so much speak it. She could speak it to an extent. And then she understands fluently, and she could speak Spanish. So I thought that was really cool and interesting to learn about her. And also, as she was mentioning communication between her family and how they spoke Arabic, she also mentioned how her twin sister was in fact deaf and she could not hear or speak. So it was hard for her, she said in the beginning growing up, but then she said that she really had this connection with her sister where they didn't really need to speak to understand each other, but she wanted to go and make the extra effort to go and take sign language classes so she could interact with her sister more and talk to her more and be more connected with her sister. And I thought that was really important because family is important, and I think that being that she did that for her sister is really nice and sweet. And I really like how she did that. Also, so in a way, like Syrians and Lebanese are very similar in the way they speak, like the types of food a little bit, because we are very rice based too, but not so much. And I think it's very interesting to to finally see comparisons between a Syrian Jew and a Lebanese Jew. Thank you so much.